The morning Glory left was unnaturally quiet. Not the peaceful kind of quiet, but the kind that presses against your ears, heavy and suffocating, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Eze stood barefoot on the cracked cement floor of their one-room house, staring at the half-empty wardrobe. The wooden door creaked slightly as it swayed, revealing the absence more than anything else. Dresses gone, shoes gone. Even the small mirror she once used to admire herself had vanished. Only her scent lingered faintly in the air, fading fast. Behind him, 6 small voices stirred. "Papa, where's Mama going?" It was Vivian, the eldest. Her voice carried both innocence and the early burden of understanding too much. Eze didn't turn immediately. His fingers tightened slowly into a fist. He had known this day would come. Glory had been drifting for months, her eyes no longer seeing him, her laughter no longer belonging in their home. And then came the man. Polished shoes, loud car, easy money. Everything Eze was not. She has gone to the city, he finally said, his voice dry. "For how long?" Selena asked, stepping closer, clutching the edge of his worn shirt. Eze swallowed. "For a long time." Juliet began to cry first, then Judith followed. Rita and Peace clung to each other in confusion, while Vivian stood still, her eyes fixed on the empty doorway as if she could will their mother back. Only one voice remained silent. Little Peace whispered, almost to herself, "Did we do something wrong?" That question pierced deeper than anything else. Eze turned sharply, dropping to his knees in front of them. His rough, grease-stained hands cupped their small faces one by one. "No," he said firmly. "No, none of you did anything wrong." His voice cracked, but he held it together. "Your mother made her choice." Life did not pause to comfort Eze. By sunrise the next day, he was already back at the roadside workshop, a stretch of dusty ground with rusted tools and broken engines scattered like forgotten dreams. His daughters followed him, barefoot, hungry, silent. Neighbors watched. Some whispered behind hands. Others didn't bother hiding their laughter. "Look at him," a woman scoffed. "6 girls and no wife? He's finished." Another added, "That's what happens when you can't provide. Women don't stay for suffering." Eze heard every word, but he said nothing. Instead, he wiped his hands on an old rag and turned to his daughters. "School," he said simply. Vivian hesitated. "Papa, we don't have shoes." He looked down at their feet, cracked, dusty, vulnerable. Then he nodded. "Feet were made to walk," he replied, "and your future is not waiting for shoes." The road to school became their daily trial. 6 girls, 1 tired man, walking, always walking. Children laughed as they passed. "Look, the mechanic's daughters. Where are your shoes? Did your mother run away because you're too ugly?" Juliet covered her ears. Rita cried openly. Judith clenched her fists. But Vivian walked straighter, and Eze noticed. He would carry the youngest, Peace, on his back sometimes. Other days, he would carry Juliet when her feet blistered and bled. His shoulders grew heavier with each passing week, but he never stopped. At the school gate, the security guard once shook his head. "You again? Why do you keep bringing them like this? It's embarrassing." Eze met his eyes calmly. "Education does not ask for beauty," he said, "only determination." The guard said nothing after that. Dinner was never certain. Some nights, it was a single bowl of gari shared among 7 people. Other nights, nothing. But every night, Eze gathered his daughters around him. No matter how tired he was, no matter how empty their stomachs felt, He would speak. "You will not remain here forever," he told them, his voice steady despite exhaustion. "You will rise," Selena once asked. "How, Papa? We have nothing." Ize leaned forward, his eyes burning with something stronger than hope. "You have something greater than money," he said. "What?" "Integrity." The word hung in the air, heavy, unfamiliar, powerful. "It means," he continued, "that even when the world gives you nothing, you do not become nothing." The girls listened, even little Peace, especially Vivian. Time moved quietly, but it did not stand still. The girls grew. Blisters turned to calluses, tears turned to resolve, mockery turned into silence, then into respect. Vivian became top of her class. Selena developed a sharp mind for numbers. Judith spoke with a boldness that made even teachers pause. Juliet, Rita, and Peace followed closely, each carrying a piece of their father's stubborn strength. And Eze grew older. His back bent slightly now. His hands shook more than before, but his eyes, still steady, still watching, still waiting. It happened on a day no one expected. A car pulled into the dusty street. Not just any car, a shining, expensive machine that didn't belong in a place like this. Doors opened, and out stepped a woman dressed in elegance. Gold, silk, confidence. But her eyes searched. "Is this where Ezzy lives?" she asked softly. A neighbor squinted, then laughed. "Well, lol, look who decided to remember." Word spread quickly, and soon Ezzy stood at the doorway again, just like years ago. Only this time, he wasn't the same man, and Glory was no longer the same woman. Their eyes met. Silence stretched between them. Behind Ezzy stood 6 young women, no longer children, strong, educated, unrecognizable. Glory's lips trembled. I came back," she whispered. No one moved. No one spoke. The air thickened with everything unsaid. Vivian stepped forward first, her voice calm, controlled. "Why now?" Glory hesitated. "I made a mistake." Judith let out a quiet, bitter laugh. "A mistake?" she echoed. Selena crossed her arms. "You left us to starve." Juliet looked away, tears forming again, but different this time. Rita and Peace stayed behind their father, watching closely. And Eze said nothing. He simply looked at the woman who once walked away from everything he built with his bare hands. The same woman now standing before something she could not recognize anymore. Something she did not create. Something she did not suffer for. Something she did not earn. Glory took a step forward. "Can you forgive me?" The question lingered, heavy, sharp, unavoidable. Eze finally spoke, slowly, carefully. "You left when we had nothing," he said. His voice was not angry, not loud, just steady. "And now you have come back when there is something." Glory lowered her gaze. "I was foolish." Ize nodded once. "Yes." Silence again. Then he stepped aside slightly, not fully, not completely, just enough to leave the answer unfinished. The daughters watched, the neighbors held their breath, and Glory stood there on the edge of a life she once abandoned. Whether she would be allowed back in or left standing outside forever remained unwritten. The silence stretched long enough to become uncomfortable. Glory stood at the threshold, her polished shoes now dusted with the same earth she once fled from. The air between her and the family felt unfamiliar, like she was a stranger asking for shelter, not a woman returning home. Eze's hand rested on the doorframe. He did not invite her in, not yet. Behind him, the daughters watched. 6 different reactions, 6 different storms brewing beneath composed faces. Vivian spoke first. "If you enter," she said quietly, "you don't enter as the woman who left." Glory's eyes flickered. "Then who am I?" Judith answered this time, her voice sharper. "Someone who has to earn her place." A pause. Then Eze finally stepped aside, just enough. "You can come in," he said, "but you will walk slowly." Glory nodded and stepped inside. The house had changed, not in size, not in structure, but in spirit. What used to be fragile and uncertain now carried discipline, order, and quiet strength. Books lined one corner, certificates hung carefully on the wall, proof of battles fought and won without her. Glory's gaze moved across each one. Vivian Okeke, academic excellence. Selena Okeke, mathematics distinction. Judith Okeke, debate champion. Juliet, Rita, peace, all marked by achievement. Her fingers trembled slightly. "These are my daughters," she whispered. "No," Judith replied immediately. "They are his daughters." The words landed without hesitation. Eze said nothing. He simply sat down on the old wooden chair, watching, not interfering, not rescuing. This was not his moment to control. This was theirs. Night came, bringing with it a familiar discomfort. There was food, enough for everyone, but no one rushed to serve Glory. No one asked if she was hungry. She stood there, uncertain, until Little Peace, now no longer so little, placed a plate in front of her. The gesture was quiet, neutral, not warm, not cold, just present. Glory looked at her. "You've grown." Peace shrugged slightly. "We all did." They ate in silence, until Juliet spoke, her voice softer than the others. "Do you know what hunger feels like?" she asked. Glory froze. Juliet continued, not looking at her. "It feels like your stomach is eating itself, like your body is slowly turning against you." Rita added, "It feels like watching other children eat and pretending you're not jealous." Selena leaned back. "It feels like learning how to sleep so you don't feel it." Each word stacked on the next, measured, controlled, precise. Glory lowered her head. "I didn't think." "That's the problem," Vivian interrupted. "You didn't think." Later that night, after the daughters had gone to sleep, Glory found Eze outside. He sat on a low stool, staring into the darkness, the same way he used to after long days at the workshop. Nothing about that posture had changed. She approached slowly. "You hate me," she said. Eze shook his head. "No." She looked surprised. "I don't hate you." "Then what do you feel?" Eze exhaled slowly. "I learned how to live without you." The words were calm, but heavier than anger. Glory sat down on the ground beside him. I thought I was choosing a better life." Eze nodded. "You did." She turned to him. "It wasn't better." "That is not my story," he replied. Silence again. Then, after a long pause, he added, "Forgiveness is not forgetting." Glory swallowed. "I know." "It is also not instant," he continued. She nodded again. "I know that too." Eze finally looked at her. "For them, it may take years." "And for you?" she asked. Eze didn't answer immediately. When he did, his voice was quieter. "I forgave you a long time ago." Glory's breath caught. "But forgiveness," he added, "does not restore what was broken." Days turned into weeks. Glory stayed. Not as a mother, not yet. She woke early, swept the house, cooked, listened more than she spoke. Judith ignored her. Selena tolerated her. Rita and Juliet watched her carefully. Peace asked small questions, and Vivian observed everything. One afternoon, Glory found Vivian studying. "You've become strong," Glory said. Vivian didn't look up. "We had no choice." Glory hesitated. "Do you think you can ever forgive me?" Vivian closed her book slowly. Then she looked at her, not with anger, but with something deeper. Measured judgment. "You are here," she said. "That is a beginning, not an answer." The first crack in the wall came unexpectedly. Peace fell sick. Fever. Severe. Eze was away at the workshop. The older sisters panicked, but Glory didn't. She moved quickly, efficiently. Cool cloth, herbs, care. She stayed by Peace's side through the night, whispering softly, wiping sweat, holding her hand. By morning, the fever broke. Peace opened her eyes, and the first word she said was, "Mama?" The room froze. Glory didn't react immediately. As if afraid the moment would disappear, and she moved too quickly. Vivian stood at the doorway, watching. Judith looked away. Selena exhaled slowly. Something had shifted. Not fully, but enough. Weeks later, the house felt different. Still cautious, still layered, but no longer divided. Glory no longer stood at the edges of rooms. She moved within them, not freely, but no longer as an outsider. One evening, the family sat together. No tension, no accusations, just presence. Eze looked around at all of them, his daughters, now strong beyond what the world had expected, and the woman who had returned to face what she once abandoned. "This is what remains," he said quietly, "not what we lost." No one argued, because everyone understood forgiveness had not erased the past. It had simply made space for something else to exist beside it. Something fragile, something unfinished, something real.